I want to circle back to something you mentioned a while ago, that the Philippines is facing competition from others in Southeast Asia. You mentioned Thailand, and I forgot what other country, but they were, as you said, giving incentives, land, and you said the energy costs are more affordable. I'm just wondering, what are some of the things that the Philippines should be looking at that could make it more attractive as a business destination for Italian firms?
Well, the Philippines is a consumer market.
Okay.
Therefore, companies who have consumer products are definitely looking at the Philippines.
I see.
And to make it easier, we should give them good deals for electricity, for example.
Okay.
That will be much appreciated, I guess. And maybe some more clarity on the tax perks in PESA zones, where I know that in the past there have been say situations where things were not as clear as they seem to be.
Okay. Okay.
For the rest, I think those who are willing to come are definitely going to come, but we have to make it easier for them.
All right.
For example, there is another market which we all know about, but we do nothing about.
Okay.
For example, the digital nomads.
Absolutely, yes.
The Philippines is ideal for digital nomads.
Right.
So why don't we make a special visa for digital nomads?
I remember we were talking about something like that when we were doing an interview at the Manila Times. You were saying something about the visa, but I was looking at the visa requirement. Italian passport holders don't need a visa to come to the Philippines, but you had some other point that you were making about the visas. Could you remind me about that? Or?
I was actually saying that we have a lot of parents of Filipino citizens, so foreign parents of Filipino citizens, who are in between the choice that how do I get a visa to stay here and support my family? Right? Then, of course, you go to BOI, they say, okay, why don't you do an investor's visa? Why don't you do this? But we can make it much simpler for them and just issue a parent's visa who can stay here and look for work to support the family.
That's interesting. Yeah,
and it's all in the interest of the Philippines itself.
Yeah. Can you talk about the digital nomads? I mean, are there many young, or is it just young Italians that are, working from these remote areas, resorts maybe around the world? Is that a big thing in Italy now? Or?
Well, it's a big thing all over the world, I guess. And there is a lot of Americans here, Australians, there is a lot of Italians, Germans, French. So from all over, and they have a tourist visa.
Okay.
Why not giving them an upgraded visa? Asking them for a little bit more money, but at least they know that they are here on a regular digital nomad visa.
Right, and more suitable time frame than normal tourists. Are there any other visa issues that, or maybe visa incentives that we should be looking at when you go to ASEAN? Do you have to get a visa for any ASEAN country or none?
No. So, I think that is a good thing for European passports.
Yeah.
That they get a visa on entry without having to apply.
Right. Do you think Italians are also looking to maybe retire abroad? Is that something that we should be looking at? You mentioned that there's some investors visa that maybe we could simplify, or you said the rules are, could be clearer. I was wondering if you can elaborate on that also.
No, that was actually related to the incentives of PESA.
Okay.
Where we had in the past some tax-related issues.
I see.
But I think that's, as far as I understood, it's about to be clarified and clear.
Okay.
What we can do is just promote more, cut the red tape, because even though we said that now apparently it doesn't take as much time to open a company as before.
Yeah.
But in reality,
it
still takes too much time.
How different is that from what Italians experience in Italy? I was wondering if that's somewhere we're actually different. I mean, we're very common in many things, right? I was wondering what systems you have in place in your country that maybe we could see if we can adapt here. Maybe do you have one-stop shops, right? Is that something that's common in Italy, or is it simply easier? Right?
Well, it's easier. You don't need to go to 100 agencies. You have one agency. They open your company, and that's it. And then the agency coordinates with all the rest, right? With tax authority, with the so-called SEC.
Sure. Now you mentioned also the energy costs. From one perspective, you can say that that's a disincentive, but from another perspective, that could also be seen as an opportunity. Are there any Italian energy firms that are looking this way? Maybe renewable energy companies from Italy? Is that something that Italy is known for?
Yes. Just imagine, Italy has Enel, which is the biggest renewable energy company in the world.
Wow.
And the second company is just 1/3 as big.
Wow.
Enel has been looking at the Philippines in the past.
Okay.
I hope they get the chance and the will to come in the near future, because Italy has really the resources and the technical know-how to do a lot of projects here.
Right. Is there something that the Philippines can do? I mean, you mentioned sometimes there's a lack of clarity. I don't know if you've heard about problems of maybe contracts changing over time. That's been a criticism of the Philippines, right? Are those issues that bother Italians?
I think that falls under political risk also. So when the administration changes, then we have seen certain situations where contracts are not being upheld anymore. But I think that is then part of the general business climate. Now, even Standard & Poor and Moody's say that the risk, so the business risk in the Philippines is relatively low. Definitely, we have seen several changes after the Philippines has been upgraded in the credit rating, country credit rating. Many new financial perks are now available. For example, export finance or export credit insurance, and many things which make it easier to do business. But for sure, there is still this
room for improvement.
Room for improvement, and especially in the PESA zones where you can only have leasehold land instead of buying land. I think if lease titles will be introduced, that could make a big change.
That can make wow. Was there anything that surprised you when you came here to seriously look to, set yourself up as a businessman? What stood out to you personally as an Italian, coming here that was attractive versus what you saw elsewhere in the region? I mean, besides the Italian cuisine from Palermo.
When I came in, I was full of energy. I came from a very fast-paced environment. So from Dubai, I was previously in London. So business is done 1, 2, 1, 2. When I came here, I kind of naively thought that it could be similar.
Okay.
But I realized that everything is much more slower. It doesn't matter how beautiful or how good your product is, but you need to be liked first by your counterpart. And then you do business. So everything is much, much slower and more relaxed, which has a disadvantage, which means that you make less money, bottom line, and not as fast. But on the other hand, you probably live happier than in a fast-paced environment.
Okay. So, all right, so we're typically Italian. But I want to ask, how important are direct airlines? Because I remember a few decades ago, there was Philippine Airlines flying directly to Rome. I have heard, there were some talks about maybe the possibility of possibly reviving that. Is that an important thing to have that connection? Do you think that will help maybe build more relationships both ways? I mean, from the Philippines going to Italy, and then from Italy going to the Philippines and Southeast Asia?
Well, at the moment, Philippine Airlines does not have any direct flights anymore to Europe.
Yeah.
And naturally, Italy would, I think, be the first choice with the amount of Filipinos that are there.
Right.
We have already started engaging with the governor of Lombardy in Milan.
Okay.
To see whether we can find a positive environment which maybe Philippine Airlines could exploit as a European hub.
What about Italian carriers? Have you had any chance to talk to them? Are they expressing any interest at all in the Philippines? Or is China like the big magnet that's drawing everyone to go there instead?
Oh, Italian carriers, that's a little tragedy in Italy because we don't really have anymore an Italian carrier. We used to have, which now has been bought by Lufthansa, and so I guess Lufthansa would be the one who would want to
fly here.
Yeah.
I see. That's interesting. Anything else about maybe the Philippine situation here that would be helpful in attracting more Italian commerce? Any other policy changes that you think would be helpful?
Well, I think the Philippines has a great potential in tourism, for example. And Italy is very well known for tourism. I think it's one of the top visited countries in the world.
Yeah.
And one of the lessons or the examples I've been trying to make is really agritourism.
Agritourism. Interesting.
Ecotourism and agritourism. Why? Because in the Philippines we don't have these huge hotels which can host
like thousands,
big groups, and so we can make charter airlines, charter flights. So that's not the case in the Philippines. But similar to Italy, you have smaller hotels which can cater to smaller groups or single or small travelers that travel with the family or as a couple, adventure travelers. So I think from that perspective, tourism perspective, working more on agritourism, and thanks to the pandemic, this has actually happened. Many people have set up these
like
boutique hotels or farmhouses transformed into agritourism sites. So it's happening. It just takes a little bit more time.